how to calculate construction cost when thinking of building a home. So welcome to our YouTube channel today. I'm Brad Leavitt, president of A Finer Touch Construction. Most of you know us as AFT Construction, so thank you for tuning in. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as it helps us a lot with the content that we're putting out. So with that said, today one of the questions from our followers was how to calculate construction cost when thinking of building a home. And this is the ever challenging question that we get all the time from prospective clients, and as we're vetting customers, as they come in and they have the inquiries for us. And again, just the general public trying to get a good idea. And the analogy I always use is, what does it cost for a bag of groceries? Well, that's a good analogy because it depends on what you're putting in that cart. However, even though I tee that up that way, it's still something that we can answer to some extent. One of the most important things when you're thinking of cost are, what are the variables that are important to you? And what I mean is, when you look at your lot, are you building in a subdivision? So are you buying or purchasing a lot where this is a gated community, or just a scattered lot where it's flat land? So if you're thinking it's flat land, it's farmland, the soil should be pretty forgiving. It's flat, so you're not gonna have a ton of excavation work or site work, and so there's gonna be limited costs in regard to the site. One thing to look at that you can get at this title report, you can get figure out the easements on the property. So if there's any easements going through from the city, municipality, whether it's water rights or electric rights, these are really important because that can be tough to navigate around with the city. There's costs involved with all the professionals that have to navigate through that and get either things exempted or moved or relocated, or you have to design your house accordingly. So look at those easements, see what's going to be running through your property. And another big cost that a lot of our customers have is the utilities. So understand, do you have, is there gas to the lot? Is there electric? Is there water? Is there sewer? If all these things are there at your lot and it's just a matter of tying that into your house, it's gonna be very inexpensive, a few $1,000s to dig that trench and tie those utilities to the home. But if you do not have any of those, there's additional costs. If you're bearing a propane tank, if you're bearing a septic tank, that can be anywhere from $8,000 to $16,000 a piece, right, to put those in, and then you have to plan for it, in your design. So those are things to think about. If you don't have water and you have to dig a well, or if you have to bring in water, or you have to find a nearby fire hydrant, to tie into, especially as you're working through construction for dust control, which we have here, where we have to keep the dust control down. These are all things to think about with your lot, just in the basics right there. Another thing to understand is, that's applicable to us in Phoenix is the desert. We have the natural desert. So if you're building in Scottsdale, it's protected. And so you can only build on a portion of that. And there's an additional fee because we have to have a dedicated company come out. They have to survey all of the state protected trees and cacti, the saguaros. Then we have to relocate them, or store them off site, water them throughout the year before we replant them. So these are additional costs that can, go anywhere from $8,000 to $20,000 per lot. So every municipality, every city throughout the country does have restrictions, and it's really important to understand what the city restrictions are and what the subdivision restrictions are. Now, as you're thinking of your home and you may be looking at Pinterest or House or Instagram and still not have a good idea of what this house costs, but think of it if you're buying a car and you think of every upgrade, it's going to cost you extra money. If you have, a sunroof, if you have different, upgraded speakers in there, and, a rear view camera as you're backing up, all these little things add on to the cost of the vehicle, nice tires, nice rims, right? It's really easy to look at that and say, yeah, I can see that that's going to be more money. Well, it's the same thing with the house. If you're looking at a house and the house is just wrapped in stucco and that's it, it's very square, it's clean, you don't have a lot of pop outs, it's really easy to look at that and say that's going to be very cost effective. But if the entire home is wrapped in limestone, or it's wrapped in precast stone or brick, all that is additional cost. And so that meter's running, it's going to be more expensive. And when you look at a home, if it's a single story, most people don't realize a single story home is more expensive per square foot than a 2-story. The reason being is, on a single story, you have a wide footprint typically. So the whole width and size of the home, you have slab, you have roof tile, these are all added costs. Whereas on a 2-story, that footprint's typically smaller. So you still have the same square footage, but you're going vertical. So typically the slab's smaller, your roof line is less, so you have less roof tile, less roofing, And so it's actually less expensive to go 2-story. If you're going to dig a basement, that's going to be more money, at least for us. I know other parts of the country, they're dealing with frost lines, so they're already digging down a few feet. And so that, it's not much more to go a few feet more down, under that frost line. Whereas in Arizona, it's a little bit cost prohibitive. We don't have a lot of basements. A lot of the soil types here are not very kind to doing a basement. There's a lot of challenge with the caliche, with the rock and the soil types. But in some parts of town, it's fine. But again, digging a basement, you can figure you're going to be adding 6 figures, and that could be anywhere from 100 to 500,000, depending on how big the basement is, the ceiling heights, and the customization down in the basement, whether it's unfinished or you're going to be doing a full kids area or a kitchen or guest suite. So again, those are things to think about when you're thinking of the house as well. From the inside, think of, just the finishes. Are we doing wood flooring throughout the house? Are we going to be doing marble countertops? Are we having counter to ceiling backsplashes of tile? So you think of all that tile. In the bathrooms, are you doing cultured marble surrounds? Or are you doing hand installed tile, mud set pans in each of the showers with all full tiles? So these are things to look about. Are you using shower curtain? Or are you using shower glass? And so the reason I point this out is that anyone, no matter your experience building or pricing, you can look at a home and quickly see all the upgrades. If you're looking for it, is there a lot of trim work? If there's a lot of trim work, you have to think about the cost of the trim and the prep work and the painting and everything that goes into that. Painting a flat wall will take a painter, 20 minutes after he's prepped it. If you have a lot of trim work on that wall, it's going to take them days, to do all the prepping, all the bondo and bonding on it, and sanding and making sure that everything blends so when they paint it looks great. So it's pretty easy, I would say, to some extent, to look at a photo and give someone a range of what that would be. I mean, for us, we have a good database. We've built enough projects over the years that we have a good idea of style and cost. And again, going back to other videos we've spoken about, especially in regard to architecture, just understand that the more modern and contemporary it is, the more clean lines you see, the more expensive it's going to be, because it's a much harder detail to execute, and there's no margin for error. Whereas if it's a more transitional or traditional look, you're going to have that opportunity, to do repairs, to tie things in, to blend them where it's not so much seen by the customer or by the trades. And so that level of detail is a lot easier to execute. So those are things to take in mind as well. And if you have any more specific questions on things to look at or things that drive the cost of the home, before we close, I will say also think about the exterior structure. If you're doing a building science home or an energy efficient home, there's added cost in solar power, added cost in insulation, added cost in, exterior walls, SIPs trusses. For doing ICF construction or concrete walls, that's gonna be more expensive than wood frame. There is a value to the customer from sound and dust and bugs, but there is an investment as well. So just think of the construction types, because that'll also dictate the cost of the